I just want to do a short recap and then touch on some new information. As we know, both individuals tested negative for carbon monoxide.
Today, officials have shared important findings about Gene Hackman, his wife Betsy Arakawa, and their dog after completing their investigation. Sheriff Adenmosa stated in the press conference that his team has thoroughly examined the case and is now sharing their official findings. Dr. Heather Gerald, the chief medical investigator, provided detailed insights into the causes of their deaths. Additionally, Dr. Aaron Phipps from the New Mexico Department of Health presented his analysis, while Santa Fe City Fire Department Chief Brian Moya also discussed key points from the investigation. In this video, I'll be sharing everything these officials have revealed about Gene Hackman, his wife, and their dog. This investigation began on February 26th when Mr. and Mrs. Hackman were located near Arawa and their dog at their estate. I would like to provide a brief overview and also discuss some of the newer details. As we are aware, both people did not have carbon monoxide poisoning. City Fire performed tests and determined that the deputies could begin their investigation with the exercise of their powers. The preliminary pacemaker interrogations results were released a week ago, and I shall allow Dr. Gerald to explain those more specifically. Gas Company New Mexico also conducted an analysis of the residence and discovered that there was an underwater drone pipeline that was leaking, and a single burner on the kitchen stove was opened, which was quarter of 11-room air, which was rather negligible. Unimportant because Zena, the deceased dog, has been picked up for necropsy at the Veterinary Diagnostic Services, and we will be waiting for those results. Let's narrate a little referring from the timeline for Betsy Arakawa. As we know from our investigation, she picked up Zana from Gruta Veterinary Hospital on February 9th, 2025. There was a procedure that was done with the dog, which may explain why the dog was in a crate at the residence. Let's move on to February 11th, 2025. Mrs. Irawa, as we know, provided her massage therapist with a report through email around 12:21 p.m. Later in the afternoon, Miss Irawa was shopping at the Sprouts Farmers Market from between 3:30 to 4:15 p.m. At 4:12 p.m., Betsy Arakawa was caught on CCTV at the CVS pharmacy in Savannah and left the store around 4:20 p.m. Shortly after, at approximately 4:54, she was seen at a local pet food store. The remote clicker linked to her car was used at the gated community at 5:15 p.m., which allowed her car to enter the subdivision. On February 11th, I noticed there were several emails left unopened on her computer, and there was no known activity or outgoing communication after that date. 2025 cell phone information and data is still pending. We are currently coordinating with the state police to retrieve the phone data, but our records indicate that the last known activity from Miss Arakawa was on February 11th. I'm ready to go ahead and turn the podium over to Dr. Gerald. I would like to ask every person present here that no questions should be raised until each of you have made your statements first. I will move to the podium, and after that we can take questions from the press. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Heather Gerald, and I am the Chief Medical Examiner for New Mexico at the Office of the Medical Investigator. I want to start this session by stating that it's not normal for the Office of the Medical Investigator to make public relations statements about death investigations. However, the circumstances of these two deaths have led to the necessity of an accurate public relations dissemination. I've already attended to some prior public relations with the Hackman family in advance of this media briefing, and they do know the autopsy results and conclusions, so they informed me that they will attend this public relations conference. On the 27th of February, Thursday, I conducted the autopsy of Mr. Gene Hackman. Medical examiner Dr. Daniel Joe carried out the entire autopsy of Miss Betsy Arakawa Hackman. Also on the day 27th February, in my report, Miss Arakawa Hackman's registered name is Betsy Hackman. This name will be used hereafter. The reason behind the death of Miss Betsy is pulmonary syndrome. The natural course of action at this stage of the autopsy is to conduct a thorough examination of the corpse, provided she was aged 65. The CT analysis showed no evidence of internal or external trauma, though there were microscopic findings that were consistent with high-risk pulmonary syndrome. At a clinical lab, laboratory testing performed was positive for hantavirus, which further confirmation testing at Scientific Laboratories Division proved positive. He was negative for testing done on COVID-19, influenza, and any common respiratory viruses, and his carbon monoxide testing returned negative as well. There were no other significant findings of natural disease, and the only medications found on scene were pills for hypothyroidism, which do not currently raise suspicion for being a contributory cause of death. Mr. Gene peacefully departed on the age of 95 years, most likely due to severe hypertensive atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. And in deep Alzheimer's being one of the greatest contributory factors, it's this lack of blood flow didn't allow the brain to function normally in Wood-Rise condition. The postmortem examination revealed no internal or external signs of trauma, but did notice that there was severe heart disease, dominantly backed up by numerous operative procedures carried out in the heart, cardiac history of many attacks, and the changes of kidney due to unconstricted heavy blood pressure. The brain discovered with advanced Alzheimer's, as well as the arteries and veins, trouble in the upper side due to high pressure, prolonged. Laboratory testing performed at Scientific Laboratories Division returned negative results for COVID-19 influenza, respiratory viruses, carbon monoxide, as well as hantavirus autopsy was checked for respiration and carbon monoxide. No hantavirus was present. Hantavirus was, however, negative. The scope attained this information, so I was informed while wondering concerning the time of death. Oh well, after pondering on the issues of science, Norsk Beschurketst Olsteni Spekspin, but no trustworthy explanation can be accessed to assert the data and timing of death. Hessetman, initial checkup of his pacemaker displayed rhythm in the heart for 17th Feb into the late February 18th. Hessetman's pacemakers were proving to exhibit more recently occurring atrial fibrillation. An augmentation of this arrhythmia over time was literally the sole hypothesis rest of activity from the heart during this day. Hence, stemming from the data issued, it is quite logical to estimate the time gathered around February 18th. This metaphorically means based on situations when Mrs. Hackman was first assumed to have perished, whereas February 11th struck out firstly around 11 a.m. Not A.M. Sam, your personal assistant to the vivid species fluent exercise, without clear meaning, and you can guess the answer. Such reasoning intersects with the common line of take a break, remembering the distinct ailment diagnosed as the unclothed hairy order. Stephen could move like with vehicle engine, but vehicle crud, standing pushing forward. 2 like set breaking loose that stood put still with under ultrasol for pedestrians through. Rest. Out of this symptom, along with heightened muscular pain, one lets loose quite a pin and shovel through nauseous AP with flailing hose and water on then off, following by short circuit or heartbeat failure, associated with lungs set ablaze from active fiery response. Plus, focus from a single specific wild mouth viral creature carrying the meningitis virus, overpower helpless folks' control for life. Let me correct myself, the death rate of the hantavirus strain is southwest is roughly 38 to 50% of the hantavirus strains within the United States that are not resolvable with interpersonal interaction. And so this is aptly the time to take a break. To Dr. Aaron Phipps, the state public health veterinarian with the New Mexico Department of Health. But I would like to ask for everyone to kindly take their seat and not talk, so that Mr. Gene Hackman, Miss Betsy Hackman, and their family and friends can enjoy the privacy that they appreciate. Thank you.